Caitlin, what makes this debut special for you?
Man, I think, this is every kid's dream. I think I wrote it down when I was in like 3rd grade. So, just excited about this opportunity. And I remember Kara Callan talking to us, like when me and Paige, and I know AB isn't here, but, even I played with Ryan on the, U19 team, like on the junior national teams, there's only going to be like a couple of you that end up making it to make a senior debut. So whether that's the World Cup, whether the World Cup qualifier, whether that's, the Olympics, every single part of it and part of the journey is really special. So I know we're a ways away even from the World Cup and obviously a ways away from the Olympics, but this is still really exciting in itself and kind of the first step in this journey.
Are you ready for this? Because Caitlin Clark's Team USA interview covered just about everything fans have been waiting to hear. She opened up about the injuries that derailed her 2025 season, what it was like stepping back into a high-level gym again, and the surreal moment of sharing the court with veterans she once grew up watching on TV. Now, she's not just watching them, she's running drills right beside them, and that wasn't even the most talked about moment. Clark also hit a clutch game winner during camp that instantly had everyone talking. The entire gym reportedly lit up after that shot, reminding people exactly why she's one of the most exciting players in basketball right now. But the conversation took an even more interesting turn near the end of the interview. That's when Clark addressed the ongoing CBA negotiations, and the way she talked about it was surprisingly calm, straightforward, and incredibly matter-of-fact. No drama, no grand statements, just a simple, direct perspective that honestly made the Players Association look a little uncomfortable by comparison. Her comments were so clear and grounded that they instantly shifted the tone of the conversation around the whole situation. So in this video, we're going to break down everything Caitlin Clark said and did during her highly anticipated return to Team USA camp. And now the big question. Are you excited to see Caitlin Clark back on the court again? Drop your thoughts down in the comments below because we'll be covering all of her Team USA action throughout the entire week.
Just remind myself who I am and what I've been, and I didn't lose that, so just continue to.
Imagine this for a second. Caitlin Clark steps into the Team USA gym and there's no slow build-up, no easing back into the rhythm, and no treating it like some dramatic comeback moment. From the second she's on the floor, she's already competing at full speed. It looks effortless, almost like the past few months never even happened. But the truth is, they absolutely did. And that's the important part to keep in mind before diving into everything she revealed during that interview. The 2025 WNBA season turned into a frustrating stretch for Caitlin Clark, and honestly, it was tough for fans to watch. She managed to appear in just 13 games for the Indiana Fever. Only 13, and it wasn't because of one major injury that sidelined her for months. Instead, it was a series of nagging problems that kept piling up. First, it was a quad issue, then a groin strain. On top of that, her ankle kept acting up at the worst possible moments. None of those injuries alone would normally end a season, but when they start stacking one after another, it becomes incredibly difficult to stay on the court. Eventually, the constant setbacks make it almost impossible to keep playing.
I mean, I've always been a person that's gonna just rely on my work. Like, I feel like it's certainly made me work harder, but that's also probably the part that kind of stunk about it, is I felt like I put in so much time and so much energy going into last season, and then obviously I only appeared in about 13 games, and some of those probably wasn't as healthy as I probably should have been. So I think just relying on that. I think for me, like, obviously I didn't have, like, it's not like I, hurt my knee or, was in, like, tore my Achilles or something like that. Obviously, knock on wood, it was kind of these nagging injuries that continued to build up and dealt with.
That's something Caitlin Clark actually addressed during the interview, the constant lingering nature of those injuries. She explained that these weren't the type of setbacks where you get hurt and immediately know you'll be out for a long stretch. Instead, it was the kind of situation where every morning you wake up hoping things feel better. You tell yourself, maybe today is the day I can finally push through it, but then your body reminds you it's not ready yet. And the next day, you go through that same mental battle all over again. That kind of cycle can wear you down both physically and mentally, and Clark didn't shy away from admitting just how draining it really was.
Probably almost, played with my mind even more than like knowing I was going to be out for a set period of time. I was like always trying to come back, and then I'd get hurt in another way, and then finally obviously shutting it down. I've had a good 6 months or maybe more, and I think the first USA basketball camp was a great checkpoint for me, and I felt really great. Honestly, I was impressed with like how with it I felt. Like sometimes I felt like it maybe would take me a day or two to really get my first step back, but I felt like myself.
But this is where the conversation becomes even more interesting. Caitlin Clark didn't just focus on the physical challenges, she also opened up about the mental battle that comes with being sidelined. She talked about how difficult it is to sit on the bench and watch your team compete while you're stuck on the sideline, unable to help. That kind of situation plays with your mind in a way that physical pain doesn't. When you're dealing with an injury, at least you know exactly why you're not on the court. The mental side, though, is a completely different struggle. You're still fully involved with the team. You're studying film, showing up to the facility every day, staying connected to everything that's happening. But when the game starts, you're not the one out there playing. For someone like Clark, who has spent nearly her entire life competing at the highest level, that kind of situation can feel incredibly frustrating and uncomfortable.
Yeah, it's definitely been a while since I played a game. And obviously I played in the camp we had in December, and then, doing everything I can to simulate as much live play and training and pickup and things like that, but nothing will quite emulate this type of environment. So I think it'll probably take me a second to knock a little bit of the rust off. I'll probably be a little bit nervous, which I usually don't get nervous, but that probably just will come from, I haven't really played basketball in a while. So I'm sure like after the first minute of running around on the court, I'll be.
Then she shared something that really stood out. Caitlin Clark said she actually feels better now than she did at the beginning of last season. Not just back to where she was, better than before. After everything she dealt with, that's a pretty bold statement, but the way she explained it makes a lot of sense. Clark talked about approaching this offseason with a completely different mindset. Instead of just putting in endless hours at the gym, she became much more deliberate about what she was working on. Every workout had a purpose. Every drill was focused on something specific. It wasn't about grinding for the sake of saying she put the time in. It was about working smarter and targeting the areas that actually matter. And according to her, that shift in approach is something she can already feel paying off.
More than anything, just really excited. I know how much work and how much time I've put in to make sure my body's as healthy as it can be, and to get back not only to a point where I feel like I'm myself, but I feel like I'm even better than, where I was at the beginning of last season. And I started off the season really well before I was hurt and tried to play through being hurt. So more than anything, just excited to be out there, be surrounded by a lot of really good players, and, do whatever I can to help us win.
And that's really what made the interview stand out. Caitlin Clark wasn't trying to sell a narrative or put on some kind of show. There was no dramatic performance behind her words. She simply explained what she went through, how she handled it, and where she feels she is right now. That honesty is what makes it resonate. Everything she says comes across as genuine and direct. She's not trying to build hype around herself or create a storyline. She's just being real about her situation. And at this moment, her reality is pretty clear. She's back at Team USA training camp, competing alongside Olympic gold medalists, running through drills at full speed, and even knocking down clutch game winners when the moment calls for it. Now, here's where things start to get really interesting. During one of the drills at Team USA camp, Caitlin Clark knocked down a game-winning shot. No hesitation, she stepped up and buried it. But what stands out isn't just the shot itself, it's how she described the moment afterward. In the interview, she didn't turn it into some big declaration like, "I'm back," or "I'm the best player in the world." Instead, her reaction was much simpler. She talked about how good it felt just to be in that situation again, taking a big shot in a real competitive environment with elite players around her. That response says a lot about where her mindset is right now, and to really understand it, you have to look at what this camp actually represents, because this isn't some relaxed preseason workout. Team USA is getting ready for the upcoming FIBA qualifiers, and the schedule ahead is no joke. They're looking at 5 games in just 7 days. Because of that, the training camp isn't built to slowly ease players back into form. Everything moves quickly, the intensity is high, and every drill comes with legitimate competition. On any given day, you're sharing the floor with Olympic gold medalists, battling through reps like it's already game time. That's the kind of environment you simply can't recreate in a normal Indiana Fever practice. There's just nothing quite like it. Caitlin Clark also admitted during the interview that she can still feel a little rust in her game. She didn't try to hide it or pretend everything was perfect. Instead, she was completely upfront about it. After being away from this level of competition for a while, there's naturally some nerves and a bit of shakiness when you step back onto the floor. But the way she explained it was interesting. She didn't frame that feeling as a problem. In her mind, that's actually the purpose of being at this camp in the first place. This is the type of environment that shows you exactly where your game stands. At this level, there's nowhere to hide. Whatever parts of your game are sharp will show up immediately, and anything that still needs work will become obvious just as quickly. That's why for Clark, this camp isn't just a routine appearance or a simple return. It's a real test, a moment to measure where she truly is right now.
Continuing to focus on my body and make sure I'm as healthy as possible. I think kind of in the build up to that first USA camp and working through that, you know, you would feel little things, and whether, you know, it's just soreness and having to work through that. But when you've dealt with so many little soft tissue injuries, like, you can kind of get in your head a little bit. And I think at least past couple months, I've really kind of put that behind me and really just feel confident in what I've been able to build and where my body's at, and more than anything, where my game's at. And I know I've put in as much time as I can, truly. Like, I've been in.
That game-winning shot fits perfectly into the bigger picture. Think about the situation for a second. You've been away from the court for months. You're still shaking off the rust. Now you're in a gym surrounded by some of the best players in the world, and suddenly the ball finds its way into your hands at the end of a drill with everything on the line. What's your move? For Caitlin Clark, there's no hesitation. She's not looking around to pass it off, and she's definitely not playing it safe while easing her way back. She rises up, takes the shot, and knocks it down. And just like that, you see the version of Clark that Indiana Fever fans have been waiting to see again since last season. No hesitation, no playing it cautious, just completely focused and ready for the moment.
How are you the fastest? How? No.
Then she dives into her experiences with the veteran players in camp, and this part of the interview is genuinely fascinating. Caitlin Clark talks about Kalia Copper, Chelsea Gray, and Kelsey Plum, but it's not just a quick rundown of names. She goes deeper, describing how she observes them, not only during drills, but in the small moments between reps, how they communicate, how they move without the ball, the little decisions they make that never show up on a stat sheet. She's noticing the details, and that's exactly the mindset that separates good players from elite ones, those who keep improving year after year by learning from the best around them.
Yeah, I mean, like my favorite Olympians growing up, definitely Maya Moore, Subert, Diana Taurasi. Those are probably my three favorite. But I mean, you can go down the list and name probably a bunch more. And even on the men's side, like I loved watching the men's teams as well growing up.
Then she gets personal about her basketball heroes, the players she grew up watching, the ones she had posters of, the ones she studied endlessly. But she doesn't just drop their names and move on. She reflects on what it actually feels like to now be in a gym, running drills alongside some of those very players. And the way she talks about it is completely genuine. Not a fan geeking out, but someone who truly recognizes how rare and special that moment is. She knows it's something to appreciate, and you can hear the maturity in her voice. It's easy to miss if you're not listening closely, but it speaks volumes about her mindset.
I remember Kara Callan talking to us, like when me and Paige, and I know AB isn't here, but even I played with Ryan on the U19 team. Like on the junior national teams, there's only going to be like a couple of you that end up making it to make a senior debut. So whether that's the World Cup, whether the World Cup qualifier, whether that's, you know, the Olympics, every single part of it and part of the journey is really special. So I know we're a ways away even from the World Cup and obviously a ways away from the Olympics, but this is still really exciting in itself.
But that's not the only exciting part. Caitlin Clark is clearly thrilled about her pairing with Paige Buchers. She talks about figuring out how their games complement each other, how they read the floor together, and what they can do when they're both on the court at the same time. And honestly, the potential there is enormous. practice. Two of the top guards in the game, both fully focused, building chemistry in a Team USA camp. It's the kind of setup that could change everything. Clark explains that she's been paying close attention to Becker's tendencies, how she moves, where she wants the ball, what she likes to do in different situations. And Buckers is doing the same. That mutual effort to connect doesn't happen automatically. It only works when both players truly commit to it, and they clearly have. What comes through in this interview isn't just a player happy to be back on the court. It's a player who is fully engaged, curious, competitive, and genuinely enjoying the process. There's a real sense of joy in the way she talks. Not the relief of surviving a tough season, but the thrill of being exactly where she wants to be and knowing it. That's the Caitlin Clark who will make the Indiana Fever a completely different team in 2026. Not just because she's healthy, but because she's locked in at a level that's difficult for anyone to match.
Really thankful for the Fever medical staff, player development, and a lot of other people that have helped me behind the scenes to be able to get back to this. Like, it wasn't just me. Like, there's a lot of people that were very, very selfless in helping me do this. So I'm just thankful for them, but a lot of live play more than anything. It's the best way to get back into game shape and, try to emulate certain things the best you can.
She's knocking down game winners in practice. She's watching and learning from some of the best players in the world in real time. She's forming one of the most electrifying backcourt duos in Team USA history. And she's doing all of this while a messy, drawn-out situation unfolds off the court. Near the end of her interview, Clark is asked about the CBA negotiations, and her response: calm, simple, and almost disarmingly straightforward. So much so that it's almost funny given how complicated and tense the situation has become. In basically one sentence, she cuts right to the point. She doesn't understand why everyone can't just get in a room, talk it out, and shake hands. That's it. That's her entire take. And honestly, she's not wrong. Here's what's actually happening behind the scenes. The CBA had a soft deadline of March 10th, and it came and went. Free agency has been frozen, and the WNBA issued a moratorium to pause everything while negotiations continue. The Players Association is pushing for a 30% revenue share and a significantly higher salary cap. Those are the broad strokes, but nothing has been resolved yet. Meanwhile, the season is on hold, and instead of sitting down to work things out quietly, the negotiations are playing out publicly, leaving fans and players stuck in the middle.
Like, one of my best memories as a young basketball player was when I was I think this was my first time playing on the U16 team. And we were in Colorado Springs, and we got to see this room. I don't know if I should be saying this. I feel like it's fine, but we got to see this room where they kept like jerseys of all their like best players, or a jersey from each player. Maybe I can't remember the exact specifics, but they had jerseys dating back years and years and years. And I remember as a kid, like, I was like, my eyes were just so wide. Like, I thought that was like the coolest thing in the world.
Here's where things start to get really complicated. The most vocal voices on the Players Association side are Brianna Stewart and Nafisa Collier. But here's the catch. They're not just players. They're also co-founders of Unrivaled, a competing league that runs during the WNBA off-season. Think about that for a second. The people who are controlling the pace and tone of these CBA negotiations also have a financial interest in another league that benefits when the WNBA season hits a snag. When free agency is frozen and the start of the season is uncertain, players naturally have more reason to stay involved in Unrivaled. That's the reality that's sitting right there. Put plainly, there's a conflict of interest. PA leadership has a stake in a rival product, and they're the ones deciding how fast negotiations move, what to push publicly, and what to delay. That's a real problem. Fans are noticing, and the backlash online is getting louder. People are connecting the dots, and they're not holding back. Comments, threads, and posts are all pointing to the same thing. The folks running these negotiations have incentives to let the process drag, and the players who need a clean, smooth 2026 season are the ones paying the price.
First time playing on the U16 team, like, the amount of people that make it from the U16 team to eventually get to make their debut on the national team is a very, very, very small number. So getting to play in just this World Cup qualifier obviously is a huge honor within itself. And, I know getting to put on the jersey will be super special. And, these are the teams I watched growing up. My favorite players played on these teams. So everybody knows what an honor it is to wear USA across your chest. And, obviously there's quite a few more steps to reaching the Olympics. And, you have a lot till we get to that point, but obviously that's certainly my goal, and obviously the World Cup before.
Meanwhile, Caitlin Clark is back at Team USA camp, putting in the work, building chemistry with Paige Buchers, and hitting clutch game winners during drills. And when the topic of the CBA comes up, she doesn't launch into a political rant or try to take sides in the complicated mess. Her response is simple: get in a room and shake hands. That level of straightforwardness makes the ongoing stalemate feel even more unnecessary than it already is. Breanna Stewart has publicly said she'd be willing to sit for hours to hammer out a deal. That sounds dedicated, but it's hard to separate that statement from the fact that Unrivaled exists in the background. Saying you'll invest the time is one thing. Having a clear, unconflicted incentive to get the deal done quickly is something else entirely. And this CBA situation isn't an isolated incident. It's part of a longer trend in the league over the past 2 years. Here's something that often goes unsaid. Since the day Clark was drafted, a portion of the WNBA's veteran leadership has been actively working to limit her impact on the league, and they haven't been subtle about it. This has been an ongoing effort for 2 full years.
The worst part of all this is the new fans are sucking the life out of the WNBA right now. It's just the truth. You are right. You are right, new fans. There has never been more viewership because of Caitlin Clark. There's never been more attention. They're doing 40 minutes on First Take about Caitlin Clark. They never did that before, as Monica McNutt called out. You're right. But you know what there was in the WNBA last year and the years prior? There was other storylines. There was joy. There was talk of competition. There was talk of what was actually happening on.
Let's break down what's been happening on the court, starting with the whole new fans issue, which was honestly one of the most frustrating parts of this saga. When Caitlin Clark entered the league, she brought in a tidal wave of brand new fans. People who had never even watched a WNBA game before were suddenly buying tickets, tuning into broadcasts, and snapping up her jersey. And instead of embracing that growth, parts of the league's old guard spent their energy lecturing these fans, telling them to respect the history and acting like they didn't belong. Think about that for a second. Your league is finally getting the mainstream attention it's been chasing for decades, and the response from some veterans is to police who gets to be in the building. The numbers tell the real story. Attendance spiked, ratings climbed, jersey sales soared, all of it driven by the very fans that some people were busy pushing away. The irony there is impossible to miss. Then there's what happened on the court. The physicality aimed at Clark went beyond normal competition. Flagrant fouls weren't called properly. There were moments that felt less about playing the game and more about sending a message. And this wasn't a one-off. It was a pattern that repeated itself across 2 full seasons, showing a consistent effort to challenge her in ways that went beyond basketball.
See are the B's that are being dramatic about Caitlin Clark. That's all I see. They try so long to get respect for women's basketball, and then they treat it like a junior high school girl's locker room. Junior high school girl.
But it doesn't stop there. Now, those same veteran players, through their influence in the Players Association, are sitting on a CBA that would directly benefit the younger stars actually driving the league's growth right now. Caitlin Clark, Paige Buchers, Angel Reese, and others. Ironically, the people who are generating the revenue for the league are the ones being hurt the most by this deadlock. Meanwhile, the players stalling negotiations have a competing league in their back pocket, giving them a potential upside when the WNBA faces disruption. Here's where it gets even more striking. Fans are asking a simple question: whose future is the PA really negotiating for? When you line up who has financial stakes and Unrivaled with how slow these talks have moved, the answer becomes uncomfortably clear, and people online aren't staying quiet about it. The backlash is growing louder every day because the connections are obvious and they're impossible to ignore.
Now, what little girl wants to grow up and play in a league where you're targeted like that? How do you sit here and profess and demand that everyone take women's sports seriously when you can't even take it seriously enough to not act like a junior high queen on the court? It's stupid. That's so dumb.
Through all of this, Caitlin Clark just keeps showing up. Whether it's Team USA camp, Indiana Fever practice, or interviews, she isn't making it about anyone else. She's not taking shots at the union or calling anyone out by name. She simply puts in the work and talks about basketball. And somehow, that contrast makes everything the old guard is doing look even worse. Here's the payoff. 2 years of attempts to push Clark to the sidelines have done the exact opposite. She is now the focal point of every conversation about the league league's future. The Fever head into 2026 with Clark healthy, a roster built around her, and TNT broadcasting every game she plays so the entire country can see her in action. Clark goes to Team USA camp, drills a game winner in practice, talks honestly about grinding through a brutal injury year, and then sums up the entire CBA situation in basically 2 sentences. And the Fever's 2026 season hasn't even tipped off yet. The Players Association can keep stalling, the old guard can cling to whatever leverage they think they have, but Clark will keep showing up, making it impossible to look anywhere else. And for Fever fans, that is exactly the energy you want heading into the new season. Are you pumped to see Caitlin finally back on the court? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. We'll be covering all of her Team USA games throughout the week, so make sure to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss a moment.